Hey, what's up, everyone? You're currently tuned into TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara and netnetradio.com Tijuana. Today, Lightalk and I are joined by local LA legend, esteemed poster, head honcho of Doom Trip Records, home of the world famous annual Doom Trip mixtape and tactical radio ready mix, master guru Z Emerson. How you doing, dude?
Very good. Thank you for having me here.
Dude, thanks for being on the show. This is sick. Been a fan of the label and just like all of your internet shenanigans and stuff for a while. So cool to have you on.
Thank you. We try to put out good music and we try to have fun. So as long as we're accomplishing both of those things, I'm good.
Hell yeah. So thanks for joining us again. How have things been at the moment? Has the year been quieter, louder than the previous year, faster, slower? We're coming to the end of another year here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be real with you, not to start things out on a, dark note, but like in some ways you could say this has probably been the worst year of my life. The funny thing about this world, though, is that you can have the worst year of your life and it doesn't necessarily mean that great things haven't also happened. The way this world works, you can have horrible tragedies occur in your life, but then you can also have just like really cool things happen too. And it's like just this back and forth, and you kind of gotta, appreciate what you do have and just try to process, the things that have happened. So, I've told people I've had to push quite a number of releases from Doom Trip this year into next year, which I had never needed to do before, but it's all kind of okay because things are clearing up for me in my own personal life, and what we have lined up for next year. I know this is like the thing every label says, but what we have lined up for next year is just unbelievable. I think it's going to be our biggest year yet for Doom Trip, no doubt about it.
Dude, hell yeah. Looking forward to Doom Trip 2023. I'm glad that things are looking up for you, man.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, yeah. It's been wild. I have been tested. I will say that.
No.
Yeah. Everybody has those years, but I guess everything tends to get better. So I guess, Z, everyone's had a background with DIY and free sounds. They're always different. What guided you into DIY in the late thousands and early 2010s? What stuff thrilled you the most before you jumped into like Vaporwave 2016?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's funny. I have always been involved with music. I've always, just been playing in bands since I was young, and always interested in not just, a superficial level of interest, but just always had a deep love for music that was passed on to me from my parents. And I think what's funny is that my early experiences with actually like performing or recording, it was very limited to like the LA area. We would put on little shows sometimes.
Did you grow up in LA?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I grew up just north of LA, but I've lived here since I was 18. And I just never really got into like the online world. Like I was vaguely aware of like the whole online underground music community, but I had never really been involved with it. And really it all started in terms of like the gateway was I did a recording with a couple of friends here on New Year's Day 2016. We really liked how it turned out, and we're like, let's put out a tape, what the hell. And I just kind of like, got into seeing, all right, how do you get a tape made and how do you make a J card and all this stuff. And fast forward to now, and it's like, oh, well, okay. So this snowballed a little bit, didn't it? It all came very naturally. I will say that joining the online community and meeting people through like Twitter and stuff, it's been amazing. I have been exposed to music that has been life-changing for me. I've been, connecting with artists that I've listened to, and it's just been amazing.
That's awesome, dude. That is so sick. So when would you say you started like jumping into like, I guess, online music?
Like that was around 2016.
Okay.
And it's funny that you say that because, like, obviously in the years prior to that, I was, the Blogspot media fire years were a golden age, and I was into a lot of that stuff, but I didn't really tap into the community. So I was like listening to a lot of good stuff. I had, you mentioned Vaporwave. I had heard Floral Shop. Someone had shown it to me, or I found it on a blog or something, but I didn't know the term Vaporwave until 2016.
Interesting.
What's so funny about being embraced by the Vaporwave community early on is we didn't release any Vaporwave. I am convinced the only reason that happened is because the cover of our first release had kanji characters on them. And it was kind of ambient. And so people were like, oh, well, it must be Vaporwave. And so it's hilarious to me that in any way, shape, or form I was connected with it, because you look at our early releases, there's absolutely no Vaporwave at all.
That's funny.
With that in mind, one thing I wanted to ask was, did you have familiarity? I know at least one of the first releases, the one release of your music on the label, was done with one of the guys from Not Fun. So did you have connections with Not Fun in terms of had you booked any shows with those guys? Had you performed with them?
Well, just to be clear, you're talking about Michael Bailey, not actually from the label Not Fun, just someone who had released music on Not
Fun, right? It. Yes, thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Yeah, just to clarify, it's not actual. I believe Not Fun is run by someone named Britt. But yeah, no. See, that's the other thing is when I talk about things coming up naturally, that's a good example. Is I kind of I knew Mike, who had released music on Not Fun. I had known Hot MT, who had run their own label and venue here in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah,
Non Plus Ultra, and they had recorded with Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips and stuff. So I had all these vague connections to the music world. I was never really involved myself outside of one-off basement shows and, random recordings here and there.
Speaking of, I actually just met Spooky recently.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, he was playing with Shaky, and I hosted Shaky up in Ventura while they were on tour.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, aka Spooky, for those who don't know, that's he's one of the members of Hot MT, and we've released his solo records on Doom Trip.
Banger album.
Yeah, thanks. He's so tremendously talented, but just so humble about it. The guy records and plays and sings and puts on shows and does art and makes videos. He does everything, and you will never find him bragging. You will never find him gloating about his accomplishments. He just does what he does. He's to me, just this perfect portrait of, a kind-hearted artist.
Honestly, yeah, extremely nice. And the stuff that they're doing with Non-Plus and everything blows me away. It's damn, how are you even able to carry out this operation? This is goals, you know what I mean?
Yeah, moving from venue to venue over the years, having hosted, we were talking about M. Geddes earlier. He's played there. I think even recently, Black Dice, all these great people. So it's been great to work with them. The Hot MT records that we've put out are still some of my personal favorites. I think they're tremendously underrated dream pop and psych records. I really hope that one day, very soon, the larger world recognizes the greatness of that duo.
Oh, hell yeah. So I guess pre your label, what kind of stuff were you like getting involved in? So you said you were like hosting shows and stuff in LA. What kind of stuff did that look like? What did that look like for you?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, those times were great in a lot of ways because really there was nothing at stake. You know, we would be jamming like I jam with Michael Bailey, who we talked about earlier, who was released as like Invisible Path and was actually a very early member of Barn Owl.
Interesting.
We would jam. He'd have his modular rig. I'd be screwing around on the computer, and we'd just go, oh, some people are, throwing a show in Chinatown or something, and they need another act, and we would just do a one-off set. We would just make up a name for the night or something. It wouldn't be a dedicated, serious project. And earlier than that, I was actually some of the stuff I'm not super proud of now. Like I think it was good at the time, but I was into a lot of like, I would say I was obsessed with Olivia Tremor Control, and I was obsessed with Animal Collective.
Oh, hell yeah.
And,
Hey,
and
I've had that time. I've had that phase.
my project at the time, like late high school, early college, was just like, all right, how can I rip these two bands off as much as possible? And that stuff never really made it out. But what I was saying is like, it was beautiful because it was just for fun at that time. We would play these little shows, we would jam, and never in our lives were we thinking about PR or getting press or, followers online or anything. We just did it. So it was beautiful. I like where things have gone now, but I will admit that I'll always kind of fondly look back at those times.
Yeah. Maddie, where do you want to take us next?
Oh goodness. We could get into Doom Trip a little bit more, I suppose. But we'll go back to one of the few interviews that you have given, because again, there is not an incredible Doom Trip interview presence. That's probably a good purposeful thing. But you have said, at least in the 2018 interview you did for Bandcamp, that the one goal that you have with this label was to put out stuff other labels might not or might be passing on. And
for sure.
Because I'm coming to Doom Trip circa 2020 when Mike is sending me the first boxes of tapes I'm blindly reviewing for Tabs Out and getting kind of into that world. And I'm putting up on the screen Doom Mix Volume 4, which at that point includes, you have Dental. We've talked with Dental. You've got Fire Tools, who's released music on Hosu Mountain and Orange Milk. You've got Max from Hosu Mountain. We've talked with him. Moral, which we have talked with. Moral,
oh yeah, that's sick. Yeah.
Something, I guess that I find really incredible about the label in a short time is that it has become connected, or an important node, I would say, in the greater online sphere of electronic music that just banks. The connections to Hosu Mountain and Orange Milk have kind of been implied through the art and the roster, but I am wondering, at least with the Doom mix, how did you go about with Volume 1? How have you gone about every year kind of making that the benchmark release for the label?
My God, I love that. I love this question so much, and I could go for like 5 hours on it, so I'll try to be brief. But
take as long as you want, please.
Yeah, what I would say about that, first of all, I'm just so thankful to be like connected with these people and to get to put their art out into the world, because as you've noted, these are heavy hitters. These are important, talented producers and musicians. I think truly, when I look back, the whole beginning, the whole origin of the Doom Mix series really goes back to my love of making mixes for people. Truly, when I talk about those earlier years before I really got involved with, I hesitate to call it the music industry, but before I got involved with that world, I was making mixes for people all the time, and I would put work into it. This was not, slapping 10 songs together and giving it to a friend. We're talking, manipulation and fades and the arc of it and everything. I would get super into it. We would have these listening sessions, in smoke-filled rooms, and it was just these beautiful experiences of, as cheesy as it sounds, literally just the enjoyment of music, nothing more, nothing less. And I think early on with the label trying to figure out, what does the next 6 months look like? I just thought, wow, there's 500 people I want to work with. I obviously can't work with them all. How do I work with as many of them as possible while not overwhelming myself? And, at this time, of course, I still have a day job and life is still busy and I'm still figuring out how to run a label. So I'm just like, well, I've always loved compilations. I think about some of my favorite, just like one-off tracks that I've enjoyed over the years. Compilations have always been a source of discovery for me. It's such a beautiful idea. You recognize 3 or 4 names on it. So you buy it and then you go, oh, look at that. There's other stuff on here that I like that I might not have found out about otherwise. And, early on, especially like, I didn't even really know about the music of like Hausu Mountain and Orange Milk until probably 2015, just before starting Doom Trip. And so getting exposed to that world, meeting Mux and Tal Sounds and all these people online, I said to myself, okay, like I got to get as many of these people on here as possible. I'm going to try to curate it into something that kind of makes sense as a whole, but also with 2 separate sides. And, lucky me, right place, right time, whatever, it was very well received. Our first real bit of press outside of some smaller blogs or websites was that first Doom mix getting featured on Bandcamp. And it was this, tremendous jump in listeners, and everyone was actually buying it. The tape sold out and everything. And for me at the time, I was just like, okay, well, that works. I can at least do one of these a year. And so we just started planning the next. And what it has done for me, which is so great, is like I get to put, as you've mentioned, some of these like more well-known or more established artists like Mesh, the great, vaporwave plunderphonic producer, and Fire Tools and Dintel and Earth Eater and all these people, and I get to put them alongside brand new producers, someone who might not even have a debut album out yet, and yet their quality is there. The quality of their work is there. It's just that they're not, established yet. So that kind of that mix of those 2 different levels of, I guess you could say, producers and where they're at in their careers and whatnot, it's such a beautiful thing to me. And I think it has, proven itself over time that the series continues to be successful, that people enjoy that. People don't just want the same stuff that they already know. They don't just want music from the artists that they're already familiar with. They want new stuff. And as Spotify, there's plenty to say about the criticism of like playlist culture and everything. But I think more than anything is that even when those playlists are like somewhat curated by an algorithm or whatever, it never ever compares to a human playlist, something that someone actually sat down and really thought to put together. So I think more than anything, curating, finding the right producers, the right artists to put alongside so that it's a good experience. That's just been, I think, what has held that series together. So, Maddie, you're saying that 4 was the first one you heard?
4 was the first one, including Coyote, and that'd be the first time I heard of Coyote before Chucksworth really got more noted in 2021, or Moral, or Pales.
Yeah, for sure.
Or Infinity Knives. Oh, good. Banger mix.
Yeah, I mean, it's all great stuff. So I would ask you, as someone, you were hearing that for the first time, what stood out to you? I mean, when you're hearing that, maybe you'd never heard of the label or whatever. What was the listening experience like for you?
Goodness, to go back to 2020 and to imagine, because I would have heard it once in summer, and the big draw was Fire Tools and Mux.
Sure.
Certain. And I did love the Fire Tools track on that. And then I would have revisited it in November of 2020. And at the time was in a completely different spot in my life. And listening, basically in a pitch black. What stood out to me about it is it feels fuzzier, because I could do this better with Doom Mix 5. At least Kratos and Love from that mix still stands out as like one of the best cuts I've heard. I enjoy that mix. But to me, it is the fact that like these mixes are curated to a really, really bona fide degree. There's a clear sense of actual pacing on it.
Yeah.
The fact that, I don't know where everyone is from. It's not like I have over here, I'm putting up on the screen the Warp Artificial Intelligence cassette I got up in San Francisco. And they had the map. It has a map that tells you where every artist is.
I love that idea. That is so interesting.
But What also stood out to me about Doom Trip, or at least that release, was like you had it was the Keith Rankin art, which also kind of to me, and then with Mux on there, and it was like there's three labels that are kind of talking to each other. I saw it as like a document of a certain type of thing going on. Not, I mean, it sucks to say like in American kind of Bandcamp or an American tape labels, because they do get international artists that come through these, but it did feel like there were certain things kind of being talked to where I was like really getting a glimpse into a scene that is still quite active and vibrant today.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And yeah, I mean, agree. I mean, first of all, in case it wasn't said before, I cannot give enough credit and respect to Orange Milk and Hausu for kind of paving the way in terms of, not just for me, but for a lot of other artists. I think there's so many young electronic producers right now who look to those two labels specifically as just, I mean, I hesitate to say flawless because that's just my opinion, but I've never heard a single release from Hausu or Orange Milk that didn't, provoke me, didn't interest me, didn't come across as exceptional in some way. And, no matter how much I love a label, it's pretty hard to accomplish that just because there's a lot of different music out there. And it's unreasonable to think that you're going to love every single release a label puts out. But with them, I just think they're very important. And it's funny because I didn't even realize for a while that people associated Doom Trip with them at all. I thought, oh, they're, far more established and accomplished than me. But I was calling into a college radio station here in LA because they were playing a track I liked and I didn't know what it was. And they're like, oh, can we email you the playlist later? We're in the middle of something. I said, yeah, sure. Let me give you my email. And I said, Doom Trip Records. And the DJ goes, wait, who from Doom Trip is this? And I'm like, oh, I'm Zach. I run Doom Trip. And he goes, oh, dude, I love all that stuff. Like you and House Mountain and Orange Milk. And I was like, wait, what? And like, at the time, I did not realize that association was there. I'm honored, I'm flattered, but it's funny how an outside perception can be so different from your own.
I feel that, yeah.
It's again funny you bring that up. It's like KCSB, we haven't had like any formal connection to Hausu or Orange Milk, but they have helped. We had old music directors circa 2017 and 18 they tried to interview him and they were still sent a bunch of swag. I have a bunch of Hausu Mountain tapes.
They sent so much stuff. Yeah.
It wasn't a Hausu Mountain offshoot label, but there is another label that was tied to them at the time that I forget the name of. They had some weird releases that sell for top dollar now. I could not.
Who was it?
Oh, goodness. I have to look it up. I know.
No, yeah, you're good.
It's like a 2016.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I'd be interested to know. I'm wondering, I think I might know who you're thinking of. This edible is destroying my memory at the moment, but
all you have to do is
Umor Rex. Was it Umor Rex?
It was not Umor Rex. It was not Umor Rex, which they're still kicking it in Mexico City. Are they Mexican label, if I recall?
I believe they're Mexican.
They've got a pretty solid.
Dude, when I was in Berlin, I was shopping at this like one like a record store that was all like, techno EDM stuff you'd stereotypically think of Berlin. And the only like some of the only tapes that they had in the section or in their tape section was Umor Rex. It was sick.
Whoa.
That was funny.
Yeah, it was dope.
I'm going through. I want to say Machine Girl has a release on them, but I'm not seeing it. It's not Dread Collect.
That's right, but that's interesting. I mean, that's another, just as an aside, such a beautiful and interesting thing about underground music is how sometimes like an artist or a label can come into the picture and just instantly have, whatever you want to call their version of success, and then they're just gone. And then you just
for sure, dude. Yeah.
They existed and it was beautiful and like an ice sculpture. It's gone and it's never coming back. And in a world where you can listen to like basically any song ever recorded, within seconds after you click or type it in, it's kind of beautiful to have some things that are fleeting or, a little taste of impermanence.
I think, that's extended to a lot of my listening habits. I really don't like streaming a lot of music if I can afford not to. So I think that's why I do hoard, or I really prioritize. Like if I don't hear a tape for Tabs Out, I really don't want to review it. I want the tape. If I don't have a tape, like I will go out of my way and put stuff on my Bandcamp want list and drop money for albums that I would never listen to if I don't hear blind. Like I'll put up some dollars and hear like Young Thug's Jeffrey on cassette, just like to have that experience. And then because of that, it does shape though. Like I think your world in a way where like that's my bar now. That's it. Or I'll like rent library CDs. Like I'm a hoarder because I want to listen to it on a car stereo, and that's really the way you should listen to a lot of stuff. But
I agree. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, that was it. Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah. I just think, it's a whole conversation maybe for another time, but there is such a power, in my opinion, in listening to physical media. And I think people get very caught up in technical aspects of it, or they get caught up in, the sound of vinyl and the sound of tape. But I really think that's only part of it. I mean, for the record, oh God, I accidentally stumbled into a pun. I was going to say, for the record, I think LPs sound great. For the record, I think vinyl sounds great. I think cassettes sound awesome too on the right system. But I think it's more than that. I think it's that maybe because of our evolved monkey brains or whatever, I think when we can touch something and see something and look at it and really whatever, I just think there's something there. I think there's literally the act of putting a CD into a CD player. I think it awakens something within us, as strange as that is. I think looking at liner notes and art and credits, I think it does something. It opens up pathways in your brain that I think allow for a different type of listening experience that you're just never going to get digital. Now, to be clear for anybody listening, I listen to a ton of digital music. It's still very enjoyable. It's not like music is suddenly not enjoyable when it's digital only. But sometimes I have to take stock, kind of ask myself, okay, like I run a label. Obviously, we depend on selling physical media, whether, I agree with it or not. That's part of what we do. But then I have to go, but do I really enjoy it? And the answer is always yes. I mean, we just got our new vinyl shipment in from an album we did with the Irish producer Lyite.
Yes. That was back in March. The promo, and it was
another online jokester.
We gotta talk about that. Yeah.
The vinyl came in, and just you crack it open, you look at it, and it's all big and beautiful, and then you put it on, and you drop the needle, and it sounds amazing. Regardless of how anybody feels about digital media, physical media, or whatever, there's no denying that it's a different experience. And I think anytime you can alter an experience, the same way seeing a movie in a movie theater might be different than watching it on a small TV at home, it lends itself to, potentially a deeper connection with it, potentially hearing things in a way that you haven't heard before. And I mean, I could drop like 10 cuss words about how strongly I feel about this, but I think that's the most beautiful thing in the entire world. Is just like, you can hear a song and like it, and you've heard it before, but for whatever reason, tape, CD, vinyl, whatever, you put it on, you hear it in a different way. It hits you in a different way. And I just think that's so incredibly powerful.
I agree. The first time, or I guess like when I actually started collecting music that I guess wasn't, I don't know, that I connected with more, you know what I mean, than just like classic rock, which was like the first records I got into. But like once I started like actually looking at music that I would more like relate to and stuff, like opening up the cassette or like pulling out the liner note sheets or whatever, like you were saying, yeah, it's a totally entirely different experience. It's crazy how much like you can connect to something like that, you know?
Yeah, and people think it's one or the other. Like, oh, you know, you're saying I can't enjoy music if it's digital only. I go, no, of course I'm not saying that. A lot of times when I'm hearing music for the first time, it's digital only, but
same.
It doesn't mean I can't recognize that it is also beneficial or, you know, a superior experience in my, you know, for me to actually hold the record in your hand and to look at it. Sounds so cheesy, but even like the smell sometimes of like a J card or like the smell of vinyl.
Like
there's a scent to it. And scent is tied to memory, and our monkey brains, you know, again, get all tickled by these things. And I just, I don't know, it's amazing to me, and I could go on and on, but every single person who's ever bought a tape from us, ever bought an LP, shirt, anything from us, I want you to know that I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy it all as much as I do.
Hell yeah. I guess what were you going to say, Maddie? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just thinking, because like Drag City still has, I think, a few of their 90s cassettes in stock, one of which is the Red Crayola. And I bought that mint in 2019 and opened it up, and it has that 90s J card smell. That smells like a Red Crayola. Absolutely. But also, one thing that I guess I get, because I talk with people online, and I can tell the people that listen to music digitally and the people that don't. And to me, the biggest thing I notice is, I think, the capacity for like liner note knowledge. And I really hate, because I'm a real stickler for like I probably do prioritize the physical, but like you need to like knowing the liner notes and getting information from that. I keep referencing, there's a great Aquarium Drunkard playlist right now of Bill Laswell music. And it all just came out of the fact that those guys kept meeting to play albums they liked. And they were like, Bill Laswell's name is on this. Let's just start curating something.
That's sick.
Nice.
Also,
yeah,
I did find the name of that label. It's Visual Disturbances. That was it.
Oh, I don't even know that one.
They put out a Stab Scotch's Uncanny Valley, which is a weird cult classic, a 4.5 out of 5 on Tiny Mixtapes.
Huh.
Yeah.
Say it one more time. Visual
Disturbances.
That's a good name.
That is sick.
All right. That was the tangent. That's what I got.
No, but I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I think, you know, not every project is going to last forever. Not every label is going to last forever. That's just how it is. So I think if you can find beauty in that, you know, that's the way you got to do it.
For sure.
But, you know what you're saying, though, about smelling the 90s cassettes? I love that, too, because, you know, every now and then I'll get, obviously, like an old cassette from Discogs or something, and there really is a different scent. You know, some of the materials, the paper, the ink, whatever it is, I don't think it's like a wine tasting thing where you're like sniffing it and guessing the year or whatever. But I don't know if it's that extreme, but it's interesting. You know, you talk about smell being tied to memory, and I've never really put a lot of thought into it until this conversation right here, but I do wonder if there isn't something to that in terms of like the scent of this physical media.
The ferric. Goodness. Is there a particular type of like tape on Discogs you like to hunt after?
You know, I think for a while it was like I was interested in hearing major, so like, you know, I grew up mostly like the CD era, kind of the mid to end of the CD era, and so tapes and vinyl were not really a big part of my life growing up. But as I got older and as I got interested in tapes, I loved hearing like major label, high quality producer, professionally recorded in the studio records on cassette. Because it's this interesting juxtaposition of like the most perfectly recorded music, you know, ever made with, you know, a cassette. As much as I love them, they have their limitations to what they can reproduce in terms of the sound, but they also add the warmth and everything too. And there's varying levels of quality, but like hearing like New Order Technique and New Order Power, Corruption, and Lies. I remember getting those on tape was like a religious experience for me because it's such well recorded music, but then you give it this like blanket of analog warmth.
Oh yeah.
And it just, it's like we were talking about a minute ago, it just hits you differently. And so suddenly this song that you've maybe heard 100 times before, it's like hearing it new almost, it has a different character, a different color to it. So I try to tell people, I go, look, I never want to pressure people to feel like they have to fill their home with 500 records in order to be a true music lover. That's not the case at all. And there's a lot of advantages to digital music from an environmental standpoint too. But I encourage people, if you've never really gotten into like tapes or vinyl or whatever, give it a shot. I really think you'd be surprised like what can come of that,
I guess, again, you've noted the malleability of tapes. In another interview, you talked about how you can just throw it at a wall and it's going to play. You can just, as long as that actual, ferric material isn't damaged, that thing is going to go forever. But have you, because also, again, you had kind of hinted back in 2018, label was going to do vinyl. You've also got this vinyl that you've been waiting months for with them. It's Lee. Could you please pronounce the Irish producer's name again, please?
Well, you know what's funny about that, and I think I said this on Dub Lab when we talked about it, but like the funniest thing about Light is that he will not give a straight answer on how it's supposed to be pronounced. I'm like, come on, man. Come on.
Because he's an odd tech. He's part of odd tech.
Yeah, official account of the band. But he describes it as the word light, but with a little extra sugar on top or something, light or something like that. I typically just say light because, there's only so many things we can do in this life. But Light, he's a fantastic producer. He has an ear unlike any other. When you talk about just people who produce their tracks well, and I mean like, top to bottom, the mix, the EQ, everything is so balanced and punchy and perfect. I would put Light up against, Mesh for sure. Mesh is another, for those who don't know, it looks like Mesh, but it's pronounced Mesh. Just one of the most absurdly talented and creative producers, but also very sharp in his production. So getting to hear Light on vinyl is amazing. I don't know if either of you have heard the Doom Mix 5 that we discussed on vinyl, but I cannot believe how well that one turned out. It is just punchy and has a giant soundstage. Keith Rankin's giant claw track on there, Gummy Scrub. It's like, I've told him this before, and not to put down. I stand by everything Doom Trip has ever released, but Keith Rankin's track on Doom Mix 5 is one of my proudest moments in the label.
That's sick.
It's the most bizarre but accessible and experimental but totally listenable tracks ever. I think it hits this sweet spot that, to me, like I when he first sent it to me as we were planning that compilation, it was literally just one of those like jaw-dropping moments. Like, I'm like, not only do I love that I'm even hearing this, I get to put this out. This gets to be on one of our compilations. Like, it's just one of those beautiful moments. But anyway, vinyl's been huge. I didn't realize, I think it's something I should have gotten into earlier to answer your question. I love the fact that we have our roots in tapes. I'm always going to love tapes, and I'm always going to release tapes, but there's no denying that the vinyl market is just infinitely larger. Not only do you have the opportunity to raise more funds with vinyl, but you have the opportunity to reach other people that, don't listen to tapes.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who still don't even understand that there are still people who listen to tapes. There are people who go, why would you listen to music on tape? They sound so bad.
For sure,
but the truth is, on a good system, the tape can sound great. Anyway, all of this to say, there will be... I don't want to say for sure, but there will be at least 3 vinyl releases from Doom Trip next year, maybe a 4th if we can swing it, but I can't guarantee.
Dude, that's sick. So, how have like the delays and stuff been, I guess, like in terms of, since like, I guess manufacturing delays happen with COVID and stuff, how have you been navigating that?
What's interesting? We're kind of lucky in a weird way that we have been able to circumvent that a little bit in that our past. So what?
Did you guys crowdfund it with Bandcamp, if I recall?
Well, yeah. So yeah, that's what I was going to say is our past 1, 2, 3, 4. Our past 4 vinyl releases were all through Bandcamp system.
Wow,
and
really?
Because they have a more direct connection and they're dealing in very large volumes with their manufacturers, they do get a little bit of a preference in turnaround time. So we did get some delays on the light vinyl. When the test pressings came in, we did have an issue that we felt needed to be corrected, which did cause some delays. I do think it was the right choice in the end. But, other than that, we were very lucky and pretty much getting about a 6-month turnaround time while other people were waiting as much as 10 or 12.
And on top of that, is that also kind of partnering through Bandcamp there? Would the album end up at the Bandcamp storefront in Oakland there? Do they sell it?
Sometimes, yeah. What's funny is the first LP that we had sold at Bandcamp store up in Oakland was before their campaign thing even existed. It was a record. Really? It was our first vinyl. It was Diamondstein and Sangam did a record called The Ocean Between Us. Still one of my favorite kind of ambient electronica records, and it was the first vinyl Doom Trip ever put out. But that one ended up there. The thing about Bandcamp campaigns, I didn't realize this myself. There are a lot of them. It's, you don't see a lot of them because there's all these random artists and labels doing them. But if they were to stock their store with every vinyl campaign, that's all the store would be because there are so many of them. So they still have to be very selective. They're still, curating. But Bandcamp, I know people go, oh, well, no platform's perfect and everyone has their flaws and whatever. And I go, look, people, let's get real. For the time and place that we are in, for where music is at right now, we really need to be thankful for Bandcamp and what they do. It doesn't mean I give them a free pass for anything and everything or that I, view them as infallible or whatever. It just means we need to be thankful that there's at least one company that has reach, that is ethical, and that is willing to give a voice to music that, larger publications never would. Yeah. I just think, you can easily say that if Bandcamp didn't exist at all right now, the three of us might not even be talking. I mean, who knows what this landscape looks like if the community of Bandcamp and having that platform didn't exist at all. I don't want to know what it would look like right now.
Yeah. I think going back also with a little bit of the vinyl stuff and what they've helped with there, when we talked with Jordan Reyes back in summer for a second time, I kind of was like, yeah, why don't you do more tapes? And again, he really brought up the thing of vinyl just gets you in record stops. It gets you that attention. Like that pretty much can guarantee a wire review for someone who wouldn't get that experimental coverage. And
interesting.
To me, I come again, like at the age of 24, looking at this, like, really? I've never cared about vinyl at this point, and I'm almost like, we have to move beyond that. People just need to realize, like, if it released on whatever format that, the label dictates, I've kind of almost entrusted, the label just to do that. Stuff's made for different formats. I'm also going off on my own tangents there, but I do understand why, especially kind of having sat down with what Jordan had said months ago and then coming to this conversation. I really respect the hustle that's needed, though, to get a vinyl out there, and that you all are able to kind of succeed with that.
It's wild. I mean, I tell people this, I go, look, I love what I do. I feel blessed that, we've found an audience and everything, but it is work. I mean, anyone who tells you otherwise is either lying or not trying hard enough. Because if you want to put a good release together, you want a good physical media package, and you want any kind of press response at all, it is work. It is months and months of preparation. It is emails. It is texts. It is phone calls. It's DMs. If you want to do something right, it's no picnic. It's no, you don't. I love the idea of some of these labels or artists who record something and then they put it up on their Bandcamp the next day, and maybe they put one tweet out about it, and that's the extent of it. They grabbed an image off of the internet and changed the color tone and then made that the cover. Lowest effort, quickest output possible. There's beauty in that. Absolutely. I don't want to say like that's not a real way of releasing music at all. I think that's a great thing. But if you really want to put a release out there, I never in a million years would have understood what it took to run a label until I actually did.
Oh, yeah.
And Thomas and I both know, because we're the one tweet people with our lone TBD tape.
Yeah, we did a tape.
It's got 15 copies. I still think, Thomas, you have like half of them.
Yeah.
Please send one to Z.
I'll send you a tape that we did a TBD tape.
And I'll send you all some tapes too. But I think that's beautiful. That's just the way it is. And, people want different things. People have different ideas of why they release music, and that's all part of it. I think that's great.
Perhaps though, because one artist that you do work with that I do find, this is the kind of thing that makes vaporwave to me so interesting, is that so many of these artists are kind of in their own self-policing orbit, or in an orbit that is extremely online and will know what it wants to buy and can sell something out. And you've worked with the kind of enigmatic, anonymous, off-the-grid luxury elite. And her tapes have also shown up on Crash Cymbals and My Pet Flamingo. How did she end up working with you? Did she reach out to you? Did you reach out to her?
Gosh, let me back it all the way up here. So it's funny. I hope she's okay with me telling the story. I think she would be, but early on, I think this must have been 2016. We used to do this thing so let me back up for 1 second. When I first got onto like Twitter and social media stuff, I barely knew anything about that world. Like, I had my own personal Facebook, but I didn't know the ins and outs of, how to run a Twitter or an Instagram or anything like that. But one thing I saw as soon as I got on Twitter and looked at, the music world, especially the more underground stuff, I saw that people did giveaways a lot. So like, retweet this tweet to enter a giveaway. We'll send you a free tape or whatever. I'm like, okay, might as well. I'll give someone a free tape and we get some retweets and, why not? And I'm going to be honest, I hope this doesn't make her mad. I didn't even know who she was at the time, but she won one of our contests. And,
that's sick.
we got in touch. Like, I knew she was a producer and I'd heard some of her stuff, but I didn't realize she was like luxury elite. She was the legend of vaporwave, literally one of the originators of vaporwave and the originator of late night lo-fi, especially, even the name itself. And I think I don't know what it was, but something about what Doom Trip was doing early on was accepted within a couple of different scenes. And for one reason or another, I got in touch with Luxury Elite. She won this contest. We would joke around on Twitter sometimes. And then I never thought to ask her about working together just because I didn't think she'd be interested. I was just like, she does her own thing. She's already on these more established labels. What interest would she have, in Doom Trip? But as we talked more, I eventually got to this place where Doom X4 was already out and I wanted to play on Doom X5. And I was like, you really don't see Luxury Elite showing up on a ton of compilations unless they are vaporwave late night lo-fi compilations. And even then, relatively rare. It's not like she's on them all the time. And so I was like, God, it would be so cool. I wonder if she'd be interested in contributing a track for this Doom Mix 5. And she was. And so I think from there, we probably, as we got closer, we became friends and started talking more, in real life or whatever. And she told me she had a new album coming up, and I just threw it out there. I was like, if you want a tape edition for it, I obviously would be down to do it. And lo and behold, she was interested. So that's how that happened.
That's sick.
And again, it's one of those things where, because I remember from when the last Crash Cymbals one, and they did a reissue of one of her early tapes, they did a 2021 just drop, and it sold out. And when I saw that you were doing it, I'm like, this just prints money. I hate looking at it like that. I think that's a little like evil, but the vaporwave, it sells. People are like, they'll get this stuff. And the fact that the community is like really supportive, I think, is awesome.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, we could go on for hours about the ins and outs of the vaporwave world. There's so much to say about it, but I will say this, and I told Lux this: never in my life have I seen so many notifications pop up on my phone than when we dropped her tape. I mean, I think the first 100 and something copies sold in 5 minutes or something.
Yeah,
wow, that is insane.
Oh, yeah, isn't the Minecraft Alpha vinyl selling today? I think that also happened.
Wait, one more time?
The Minecraft Alpha vinyl on Ghostly selling today or tomorrow. They're having the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, the grand scheme of things, 100 tapes, it's not that many, and you're not going to make a lot of money off of that. But then we went ahead and made another 50, and we said, okay, we're going to put them up at, 11 a.m. And again, 3 to 5 minutes, they're just gone again. And as a label owner, where, you have to really put yourself out there to try to sell some tapes sometimes, it's an amazing thing to see that level of dedication from fans, because this isn't just some fad. It's not like she has, one hyped track that got some heat and that's why people are interested. This is someone, I mean, she's had fans for a decade now who want every single thing she has ever touched in their possession. They want every tape, any, sticker, pin, download, anything that has to do with Luxury Elite. And that is so incredibly heartwarming to me that people can have that level of dedication, that kind of cult following. Because in the grand scheme of things in the world, of course, most people have not heard of Luxury Elite, but you go to a certain cross section of society or a certain, subculture, and, she's basically number one to a lot of people.
And then on your end, this is something, because I know you've kind of have hinted this. So you gave a bunch of post workers gift cards, because I'm assuming, how do you mail this? How do you the mailing of that?
That's so funny. Wait, did I tweet that?
You did.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I mean, conversation for another day, but I don't even remember half of what I type into that app, but that's great. Yeah, I had been going to the same post office pretty much since Doom Trip started. Mm-hmm. And some, over the years, the staff have changed, from time to time, of course, but it's like the second I walk through the door holding my bags or a box or whatever, they just look at each other like, which one of, you take him, I'm not taking him today. I took him last time, that kind of thing. And for whatever reason, I'm very blessed. These people at this particular branch have been very kind. I can come up there with 150 or 200 packages, and they don't give me, attitude. They're not rude about it. A lot of them have actually been very gracious. One of them even said, like, I would rather send 100 packages from one person than 100 packages from 100 people, because that's like a new person to deal with every 2 minutes rather than just kind of hanging out there. So I know all the label people are going to be like, why aren't you printing at home and using sticker labels and stuff? And I have my reasons, but for a combination of reasons, I've just decided the best thing to do for me, at least right now, is to pack everything up and just ship it normally from a post office branch. given all the work they've done, given how gracious they've been, I'm like, every now and then I gotta give them a little something back. So sometimes it was gift cards, like I think one time it was literally just like Visa credit cards for a couple of them. Another time it was maybe like a grocery gift card, I think, to a local grocery store. But just something as my way of saying thanks for, all the work that they do. The Postal Service is so important. And, with all the DeJoy stuff and everything that was happening, I was a little worried what was going to happen for a while. It seems like it's settled down a little bit now, thankfully. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's sick, though.
Damn.
It's funny. I have no recollection of tweeting that.
It's just something that's always stuck with me because I'm like, this is so endearing that someone would do this. And I think I put it in the Tabs Out review. Something about
right. Okay.
Thomas, I think we should go to the next question. We're coming to the downswing.
Yeah, let's do it. So how did you come about into the mastering game, and do you have any frenemies in the mastering game?
Frenemies? Wow. So I'll say this. But what's so funny to me is that I started mastering, like a lot of things with the label, out of necessity. Early on, I needed records mastered. I could not afford to pay anybody legitimate to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot of people. I didn't know who would do good work or whatever. And it just became one of those things where, like, for example, the artwork of our first release, Flesh World, that was literally the first time I had ever made art, like digital art of any kind. I downloaded a free program called GIMP.
Oh yeah.
Because we needed a cover, and I again couldn't pay anybody to do it. I didn't know how to ask anybody to do it, so I just did it. With mastering, the same thing. I was like, well, I guess I'll just learn how, and so I did, and I'm thankful for that because it's been, a tremendously useful thing to be able to do, especially for those compilations, rather than hiring an engineer for a bunch of individual tracks on a release or whatever.
Or not Andrew Weather,
Andrew Weathers, he does a lot of mastering.
Full spectrum.
Yeah.
And we never talked with Angel. Her work always shows up on a ton of tapes I've done. And I've talked with a couple people on Reddit or Discord who have worked with her, and I'm like, yeah, she whips.
Oh yeah, for sure. I actually had someone on the show.
And again, like T. Gowdy mastered art cassette. It doesn't seem like anyone's an enemy. Just kind of seems like everyone's a friend or just vibing on their own fronts.
I think it's also sick too, because a lot of the people that we've talked to that like get into mastering, it's all literally out of just like, what is it, like a need for it? You know what I mean? Like they can't afford to do it. So they're like, all right, I'm gonna do this. And like they have this knowledge, and they're also like, well, I'm not just going to gatekeep this knowledge. Like Andrew Weathers will do it as like a pay what you can type deal. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you need your record, now, it's sick. That's why I think the DIY community is cool in terms of like mastering and all that too.
Yeah. And like for me, especially, I've told this to people before, when it comes to the music I release, and to a certain degree, even who I work with in any capacity, you got to have a good heart. If someone, I don't care how good someone's music is, I don't care how talented someone is, if they come at me with like ego and attitude and they think they're better than everyone else, I lose interest immediately. I do not care to work with anyone who isn't going to, at least to some degree, recognize that we are all part of a larger community.
Oh yeah.
That even if you make music alone, even if you like to kind of keep to yourself or whatever, the second you let anyone hear it outside of yourself, you're now part of something larger. You're a part, whether it's an online community, a local community, a genre, whatever it is. We are all in this together. And, I have, from time to time, I've cut deals for people on mastering too. It really depends on a lot of different circumstances. But I think the idea that someone wants to treat something like audio mastering or mixing or whatever as purely a revenue source, as purely a business, I don't see how they could possibly do good work, because if you're viewing it as a business and you're just trying to get through as many clients as possible, as fast as possible, and make as much money as possible, I doubt your work is going to sound very good. I mean, you know, maybe you have expensive equipment and stuff, but I will say to anybody who's looking to get into it, anybody who can't afford to get something mixed or mastered and you're trying to do it yourself, do not get lost in the game of thinking you need the best and most expensive equipment or the best and most expensive plugins. One of the most valuable pieces of advice anyone gave me early on is like, if you're not able to master a track just with the basic stock settings in a DAW, then you're just not able to master tracks. You could have all the equipment and all the nice outboard compressors, whatever in the world, but if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have the ear for it, it's not going to sound good. So if you're starting out, all that matters, sounds like a joke, but all that matters is making your work sound good. It does not matter. You could probably even use Audacity if you really needed to. I mean, don't if you don't have to, but
I'm raising my fist in the air because I use that just to I do a compressor and just thing for my radio show.
The people's audio program.
And as long as it sounds good. I mean, I've probably joked about this before, but I'm like, oh, you want a mastering tip? Here's a tip. Make it sound good. I mean, that's all it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, people get caught up. They want to see a nice studio and they want to know that their track was run through some like $20,000 compressor or something.
Yeah.
And if that person knows what they're doing, then it will sound good. But if they don't know what they're doing, it's not going to. It's not some automatic thing where you buy all this expensive stuff
and then you're just good at it. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I feel that.
We haven't made fun of Mike from Tabs Out yet. Should we do that before we get off the call?
Oh, for sure.
I think we've kind of hit the fan question section, so we can start. We'll start with this and then we'll get this is Mike's fan question, which he's asking if you want to come on Tabs Out. I think it's on the 28th of December for the end of the year. I think it's going to be like midday.
It's going to be mid. It's going to be mid, all right, because it's Tabs Out. Anything having to do with Mike and his mid tweets that he's just plugging away every single day, dropping something about a noise table or there's a mixer on his nightstand, God knows what else. Mike, if you ever hear this, you suck. Your tweets suck. I'm just kidding. For anybody who's listening, I'm just messing around. Tabs Out is amazing. Mike is a funny guy. And for anyone who sees us going at a bunch of insults online, we are in our DMs with each other being very pleasant. And I think he's actually like more of a fan of me than he really realizes yet. And that's just something. But anyway, what day is it? 28th?
Yeah, I think that's going to be it. I can keep you in the loop there.
Great. Yeah. I will say the one time I was on Tabs Out before, which I think was a couple years ago now, it was a surprisingly normal interview. I was expecting to just like get trolling attempts and excessive soundboard usage, but instead it was actually just like a pretty normal and nice interview. So that was cool.
It's fun. I've only ever had one convert because when Mike gave me slightly more posting power, instead of emailing him drafts, he just let me log on to the site to post a draft. And I still never quite get sense of like his life. But I mean, before I was writing for the site, I'd read those tweets and I'd realize like this is a man who really does love this stuff and has he has a history with cassettes that I really don't honestly know the full story of 905 tapes or like how he got a Merzbow tape out and then got blocked by Merzbow, that kind of stuff. That it's like he'll just tell me at some eventual point why he loves the last two Wiseblood albums so much, which kind of cracks me up. Even though I'm like, oh wait,
it's so surprising.
Yeah, I'm like, oh wait, you're a 42-year-old man, but he'll be like, I'm listening to Bell and Sebastian. And he'll misspell Sebastian, and I'm like, oh, this makes complete sense. Like, the man, and then like while he doesn't review music, he'll leave kind of numbers in the tabs out top 200. And I'm somebody that almost seems to be way too positive. And every time I see a lower score or why he's scoring something, the more tapes I listen to, the more I get. And the fact that he's been just generally like lets me do my own stuff. He gives me a box of tapes, does not care. Same thing with Dan Golden at Post Trash, who's also been an absolute homie in Hands Off. The fact that these blogs have been able, I think, to get to like 12,000 followers on Twitter is good. That's
it's great.
Which again, if this platform can vaguely survive, if these communities do matter, it's like it feels good to know that there are actual in 2022 compared to a decade ago, real established blogs that look cunning. Yeah. Look good, and people are going to. This does bring us. Oh wait, no, you do your thing. You do your thing.
Well, I was gonna say as a side note, real quick. I don't think Doom Trip has ever gotten post trash coverage, so please help us out there.
I will on that front, especially because you guys have got that Last Donuts, that Larry Fitzmaurice coverage. I was glad to send that to you. I did not.
Yeah,
that slap. I'm super glad to see that Larry knew about those tracks and was covering them.
Yeah, me too. So I was going to say, you were talking about like, getting over 10, 12,000 followers and stuff for this music. I'd say a big thing for me that I try to explain to people, the tough thing with, let's say, any non-mainstream music is that you can't really tell someone who like has only listened to mainstream music their whole life, you're doing it wrong, or you're listening to bad music. Nobody wants to hear that, and it's not really a good way of putting it. But what I will say is that for anyone who has never really tried to dig deeper, for anyone who has never really tried to listen to underground music, I think you just want to tell them, I find myself thinking, you might discover something you love in a way you never would have expected. Mm-hmm. You might find yourself connecting with music in ways that literally were not possible with a lot of these more, let's say mainstream or successful artists and producers. Mm-hmm. I want to tell people, if you can just bring yourself to giving some of this music a chance, you might find yourself enjoying music on a level that you didn't think was possible. And I think that's beautiful. So when you talk about these blogs gaining followers, I always want to say to people, look, it's not that you don't like this music. It's just that you haven't been turned on to it yet.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so I agree. I think the audience is there. I think a very large amount of people in the world would like a lot of the same records we like if they just had a friend or the right person to expose them to it. And so that's what I think is so important about labels, podcasts, radio shows, is sometimes all it takes is one person hearing one random track on a college radio show or something to potentially change the musical listening habits of their entire life. Mm-hmm. And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It does, I guess. Oh, goodness. Oh, that's really beautiful. That's true.
So, should we dive into our other listener questions here?
Yeah. I mean, one is about Twitter, unfortunately.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Let's start it. Let's start right there.
Okay, yeah. Take that one, Maddie.
Okay. Again, you're one of our nation's best posters. When it comes to this, though, because I still think about On My Way to Berlin, which is one of the greatest tweets of all time. Is there a strategy involved with this at any point? Have you noticed any kind of like, are you able to view into the scry into the algorithm? Let's say, do you kind of just like do what you want to do? What are three, like, I know how much you hate Steely Dan. What are three topics that you do love though, coming back to and riling up?
Okay, I will say this. First of all, I'm glad you're giving me an opportunity to like go on record saying this. I don't know how to put it into words. I'm not trying to sound any particular way here. This is just the truth. Okay.
Dude, you gotta do
it. What I post on that godforsaken application, it it just comes to me. I'm not even trying. I swear to God, there's no strategy. There is no, let me brainstorm some memes. I think people think I have like a whiteboard and markers and I'm like, you know, running the numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll seriously just be like cutting up a piece of fruit and think of some stupid goddamn Steely Dan joke and I just post it. And suddenly, you know, people are responding to it and replying. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of times where like there's an actual topic that I think needs to be discussed and I'll post about that. And I try to keep it kind of balanced or whatever. But most of the time I'll just be going about my day and I'm not even kidding. I'll be standing alone, like in my kitchen. I'll just go, frick. And I'll go, that's a post, isn't it? I got to post this. And this stupid ass thought that just came to my mind, I just got to get it out there. And then suddenly, like, it has 2,000 likes or something. I'm like, okay, you know, as cheesy as this sounds, the fact that, like, a few people get a good laugh from the day from some, you know, stupid crap that I put out onto this app, that's kind of cool, man. Everybody needs a little laugh. Everybody needs a place to just kind of, you know, turn their mind off for a little bit. And I don't think I'm like some super hilarious guy. I don't think I'm, you know, some super great account or whatever. I'm just, I have these thoughts, and unfortunately an app exists that allows me to put those thoughts out to thousands of people. Because before that, I just said it to my friends, and they would just go, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah.
You know, online it works. Now, I will admit, you know, sometimes you think of a meme and you have to actually like do some photoshopping or whatever. But I have a rule that if it takes more than 5 or 10 minutes to Photoshop, it's not worth it, and you just can't do it.
That's so funny.
So On My Way to Berlin was under 5 minutes. It was truly.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And by the way, we should
beautiful.
note for a second how funny it is that I don't know if people know this or if you know this, that Mike screenshotted that and then he would post it. But then like 2 weeks later, he would screenshot his screenshot of it with On My Way to Berlin written again above it. So it'd be like half cropped twice. He's done it like 6 times with the exact same post. And what's funny is it has wildly different numbers of likes depending on when he posted it. Like one time he reposted it, it might have been like 300, and other times I think it was like 800, and other times it was like 50. So it goes to show you how random Twitter is. But as some may have seen recently, I started, you know, I said, okay, if you're going to steal my tweets and do some trolling, I'm going to troll the trolls. I'm going to troll you right back. And I took, a bunch of his quote unquote best posts. And in a way that is so beautiful, it almost feels like it was written in the stars. I took his, there are basically 2 types of electronic music producers posts. I don't know if either of you saw this one.
Yes.
So it's, for those who don't know, it's Adam Scott, 2 shots. One from Parks and Rec where he looks all disheveled. The other is from that show. What's it called? I forget the other show. Anyway, looks all clean cut and he's at a computer. So Mike posts his, 2 types of electronic music producers. It got 37,000 likes.
Oh my God.
Then I took the exact same tweet, literally downloaded his 2 pictures and copy pasted his text, literally posted the exact same tweet, and it got 37.1 thousand likes.
Oh my God.
Literally it could not. I was telling people, if it got 500 likes, that wouldn't have been anything notable. If it got 50,000 likes, it wouldn't have been that funny. But I got to post something with our 2 tweets side by side where I stole his post directly and got just 0.1 more than him. I'm like, you've been owned in a way that you will never be owned again. I've dunked on you in a way that will never be dunkable again. You've lost. You're done, old man. It's over.
That is so funny.
That's right.
It's hilarious.
Thank you, Mr. Emerson.
You also posted just recently, honestly, yeah, you just have some tweets that go viral sometimes. It's kind of wild, but you posted some pictures of the Lord of the Rings illustrator. that he did. Do you remember those paintings that he posted?
Oh wait, was that the one like about going to the gas station in the middle of the night?
I don't remember.
Oh no, smoking weed with a goblin eating a fish or something.
Yes, dude, that one blew up. But honestly, that was a sick tweet, and I used one of like those paintings that you posted to make a flyer for a show I have coming up.
Nice. Yeah, dude, God, I love that like 70s sci-fi art and all that.
Oh, it's so sick.
So
yeah.
much. Definitely has had a huge influence on what?
Yeah, no, that reminds me, you had just gotten to do some stuff with Dolly, right? Or kind of see some more of the AI generated art there.
Oh yeah, just to be clear, I haven't made any myself. I've just are you talking about like the Keith Rankin stuff?
Yes, but you did get a chance to glimpse or kind of scry into that world, and you came out super positive, if I recall.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the first wave of AI art, when everyone started using it, it was basically either, you know, James Corden on the Flint Spiderland cover, or it was like this somewhat elaborate looking, but also just kind of bland thing of shapes and colors that had no real personality to it. And it all kind of looked the same. So like, it was often complex. It was often not something, you know, I myself could have ever made in an art program or anything like that by my own hand, but it didn't look good. It all just kind of looked the same, even if it was complex, even if it was detailed. But then suddenly, I don't know if it's because of the advance of the AI or if it's a prompt thing or whatever, I was looking at what Keith Rankin was posting in his Ghostbug account, and I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Like, this is clearly a tool that artists are going to be able to use to, you know, within, I don't know if it's seconds or minutes, create something that they can maybe see in their mind, but that they don't have the time to create, or maybe in some instances, they don't have the actual ability to create. Obviously, that's not the case in Keith's instance. He can do anything by his own hand, but someone like me, I might at some point in the future go, God, I'd really love to see this, this, or that. I'd never be able to draw it myself. I don't even know how to communicate that to someone. And even if I could, it would probably cost $1,000 to get someone to draw it. But the fact that that's now going to be capable, or now that I'd be capable, or the fact like what Keith's doing, he'll generate it and then he'll edit it. He'll generate something and then he'll Photoshop, you know, he doesn't like the way the hands looked in one, so he changed the hands and stuff like that. You're opening yourself up to a future where I can't even begin to imagine what we're going to see, because a lot of people are going to be able to unlock a lot of ideas that they wouldn't have been able to before. And rather than it replacing artists, you know, I do think there's a conversation to be had about if it ends up destroying people's livelihoods, if it ends up meaning less work going to actual artists, that's a problem. I think that needs to be addressed. But from a purely artistic standpoint, I'm very excited about, you know, what the future could hold for that stuff. For
sure. Who was it we were just talking to, Maddie, that did some AI art for one of their records? Moonglyph just did an AI cover.
Yes, he did that for
Erasers.
It was the Erasers. It was Erasers that
donut looking thing. Yeah,
he just used Dolly. I think it was just one of the earlier kind of beta versions of Dolly until he got the one he wanted.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, Moonglyph's great. Yeah,
Moonglyph is sick.
The interesting thing, I don't know exactly how this works yet. I heard you're not allowed to copyright AI art or any AI material because of the way the, you know, sources come through it. But I don't know if that even means that you can or can't use it as an album cover. I'm sure, you know, countless people already have, and they will continue to do so. But I'm curious how copyright laws, I mean, we already have, you know, a world where people have such a lack of understanding of copyright laws and the way sampling and everything works. But
that's also,
I hope
it's a different topic. It's super depressing. That is, to me, I think about a lot of great like 80s hip hop and how these albums can never be created again because of that. But that's another topic. It just is. Yeah.
They would not have existed if the strict. Yeah, I mean, a topic for another day. But I do think sampling is one of the things that needs to be reformed, because it's a chokehold on the creativity of a lot of people. So yeah, but yeah, with AI art, again, I do think there are a lot of beautiful things possible with it, but I do worry about money being taken out of artists' hands.
Okay, so we're coming into our last question here.
Okay.
This one, our last listener question, I should say. This one says, when are you releasing that Nirvana Guys cover album?
Nirvana Guys cover album. I'm trying to, is there a joke reference I'm not getting here?
This is by someone whose Instagram name is Spellelephant. Spellelephant.
Okay. Do either of you know who that is?
No.
Spellelephant. Okay. I'm not going to say his name just in case he doesn't want it to be said, but that is one of the most interesting and funny and talented people I've met in recent years. He is the mind responsible for 101 Notes on Jazz.
Oh,
wow.
You were kidding me. Oh, my goodness.
That's him. And he is I hope he hears this at some point, because he's a brilliant mind, very funny. He plays music. He takes photos. He's just a brilliant, brilliant person. I now know what he is referencing, but I'm not sure if I can elaborate on it. But that's very funny. Everyone listening to this should go follow.
I will
on Instagram.
I'll full endorse 101 Notes on Jazz. I bought that because of the Tabs at 2019 list. That's how I found out Tim's labels, Suite 309. We tried to have Tim on. He's never responded. He just sent his music. Which, hey, Tim, your music always slaps. But that's the only other thing that rivals Longmont Potion Castle for me in terms of spoken audio. I mean, it's just so rare. To me, it's so rare that somebody actually comes to the table with actual funny spoken word stuff to do, and that is brilliant. 101 Notes on Jazz, still on stock, never going at it. Suite 309, buy it.
Yeah, like the thing about that record is, I'm sure people go, oh, well, you don't really think it was like one of the best tapes of the year. I'm like, no, it really was, because like you said, he tapped into something and he has a way of pulling it off. It shouldn't work. That many recordings, that many jokes, it should get old after a while, or it should just kind of seem like he's trying too hard, but it never does. Every single track is hilarious in its own little way. His vocal delivery is flawless. People, it's a completely unique tape. No one will ever make a tape quite like that again.
Mm-hmm. The only other thing that it reminds me of is a Space Ghost Coast to Coast CD.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just him giving daily announcements or proclamations. There's like 80 of those on there. And that was the first time I blind bought that at the age of 14 and was like, what? This isn't the Sonny Chirac album? Which I didn't even care. I didn't know who Sonny Chirac was. I just wanted to hear the song. Just want to hear him riff. But this ended up being the funniest thing. And that plus then Longmont Potion Castle stuff that stayed with me for a decade. Hearing that,
and that's just
that brought me into this world, literally.
That's the beautiful thing, again, about any kind of non-mainstream or underground music, is you get these experiences that you're just never going to have with the big popular records. People go, oh, but I like, Drake and whatever. I go, that's fine. It's great. I'm not even saying it's bad music. I'm not saying, never ever enjoy anything that has made money in the music world. I'm just saying I try to tell people, you might be surprised how much you can enjoy something and what you might discover when you go, a little deeper.
For beyond. Sure. Yeah. I'm going to have to listen to 101 Notes on Jazz.
It's so good.
I'm excited. Anyways, I guess that brings us to the end of our listener questions here.
That's great. Well, this has been awesome. More than anything, it's just, I love talking about music. With a label, it's like, but I tell people, before I started a label, before I started actually doing it, I never would have thought I would enjoy it so much. Like, I had to actually start doing it to enjoy it.
To realize how sick it is.
the way that it's connected me with all these people and just talking about music with people like you two, I mean, it's just what it's all about for me. I mean, this is what brings me joy. So thanks for having me on.
For sure, dude. Well, I guess where can people keep up with all things Doom Trip?
I mean, the biggest thing right now, I know people know this, but the biggest thing is just to follow us on Bandcamp. If you get notified from our Bandcamp emails and whatnot, if you follow someone on Bandcamp, you'll get an email for any time they announce or put something out. And like, that is where so much of our traffic comes from. I mean, with Spotify and streaming, every now and then we'll get lucky with playlists and stuff, and something will start to rack up listens. But those Bandcamp days where we, I don't mean Bandcamp Friday, but just Bandcamp days in the sense that we put something out or released something for the first time, that's when we see major activity, you know, and it's so great to see everybody listening on there. So go there. But of course, Twitter and Instagram are both at Doom Trip Records.
Tight. Well, we have one more question here. Are you ready for it? It's kind of the biggest one of the show.
Okay.
Do you want to take it, Maddie? You want me to take it?
I'll go for it. So Z, you're coming to the post office. You got a giant order you're dropping off, and you bring it out on the table. You open it up, but oh my goodness, the order, it's not there. It's just a white lab rat, and that rat is gonna jump in your mouth, head or butt, and why? What's your choice there? You just get to choose how it jumps in your mouth.
I'm gonna be processing this for the next 5 to 10 minutes before I'm able to respond. So I hope we have time.
That's fine. Send us a fax.
Walk me through this again. I go into the orders. There's no order there. There's a white lab rat. Is this a Ratatouille situation, or is this more flowers for Algernon?
This is
that's a good question. It is, honestly, under my circumstance, I think it's Ratatouille.
Okay. The idea, someone told me recently that Ratatouille is essentially a mech movie, and I've really enjoyed the idea of looking at it that way.
What is mech?
So the question was, the rat is jumping in my mouth, and is this an Animorph thing? Am I going to morph into a rat from this point forward?
Not be morphing into a rat. You just get to determine the direction the rat lands in your mouth. From there, you get to kind of pick your own adventure, your relationship with the rat.
Okay. I think the best thing to happen in that situation is a little bit of magic. I think I would bite down on the rat. I would eat the top half of its body. But then as the bottom half of its body falls, we find out it's actually a magical rat that instantly regrows. It regrows the front part of its body. And I will have discovered the first self-regenerating rat. And it's going to change the world because eventually, of course, the rats take over because they can never die.
Oh, good. Oh.
Dude, that was such a good answer. I don't think we have
get answers like this. That's why we do it.
We've never gotten one like that. It's crazy. This question is insane. Oh my God. That was dope.
You all are a lot of fun. But yeah, tell everybody follow us on Twitter while the app still exists.
There it is.
I will admit we've gotten a lot of great connections, met a lot of great people through that app. So follow us there.
There it is. Thanks for tuning into TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. and Net Radio every Saturday, 4 p.m. This has been Zach Emerson of Doom Trip. Thanks again, Zach. Be sure to follow Doom Trip on Twitter, Instagram, and Bandcamp.
Thank y'all. Long live college radio. Long live independent radio. Long live the underground.
Hell yeah.